Hi children, how are you? Today let us have a discussion about the world wars, ominous facts. Ominous facts. We know very well that the world experienced two world wars in 20th century, and that 20th century was analyzed by the famous historian Eric Hobsbawm, and he called 20th century as the age of extremes. And even in 20th century, it has been called as a period of great expectations, experiments, dangerous developments. So at the beginning of 20th century, the world divided into two important blocks. One is developed industrialized countries of West, and second one is colonial countries of Asia and Africa. And what are the important countries regarding these industrialized countries of West concern? Here we got first, if you observe that, see here, there is one country known as Britain, and if we move on, USA. This is USA, and once again, if we move to this is Germany. And France. So I got France, and Italy, known as Italy. And if we move on, our Asian country, that Japan. Okay, this is Japan, right? So those countries are developed, industrially, and where they encourage this which led for industrial capitalism, and whereas the other countries of Asia and Africa, and they become the colonies of these industrialized countries is whereas is Africa and as well as Asian countries like India, so Vietnam, Indonesia, and some countries of Asia and Africa. So that was the position of these countries the beginning of this 20th century. So whereas if you observe that these developed countries, they have become the loggerheads for each other. So they are quarreling each other for economically, politically, militarily. And whereas these countries, if you remember, the colonial countries of this Asia and Africa, they struggled for independence. Whether you remember or not, my dear children, Our Indian national freedom movements, it categorized into three phases, which starts from 1885 to 1947. So 1885 to 19, and we call it as moderate period, and second followed by extremist period, and third followed by modern period, when Mahatma Gandhi started, I entered into freedom movement, and that starts the new era of freedom movement of India. That was the position at the beginning of this 20th century and middle of 20th century. And even if you have to see whatever because of that, and there the world divided into, because of this, the concept of logorrheic, they have become rivalries. So rivalries, fighting each other, quarreling each other, dominating, they want to dominating each other. And so the world again divided into two rival blocks, and one rival bloc that consists of Germany, Austria and Hungary, and second the Britain, France and Russia. So such rivalry led to get the domination in the world, and also because of that rivalry they want to establish more colonies around the world. The colony is nothing but the establishment of the political authority by force, with the help of military power. And because of that, and these two rival blocks, where as we have discussed earlier, and those are competing each other, dominating each other, fighting each other in all aspects, in all perspectives. And because of that, the world experienced two world wars. As we know that this World War I, which lasts between 1914 to 1918, and Second World War, which lasts between 1939 to 1945. But if we observe this, the old war, unexpectedly it was happened, but no country in the world left without participating in the war. And from east, Japan and China, and up to west, USA. So almost all the countries, they participated, and they experienced such a dangerous and as well as what we call it as destructive event in the world. And this World War I, we observe that the two rival blocks, and here we call it as allies, and allies side, allies led by the Britain, France and Russia, whereas the central powers in World War I, Germany, Austria, Hungary, Ottoman Empire and Bulgaria. And in Second World War, and regarding the result of this First World War, Allies won the World War I. So the central power countries, they defeated, and in Second World War, the Allies group led by USSR, USA, France and Britain, and Axis powers, Germany, Italy and Japan. And Allies, once again, they won the World War II. if we observe, don't think that only these countries participated in the contest. Almost all the countries of the world, they supported either allies or axis or central power. So that's why such a war as treated as World War. And what were the effects of the damage of world wars? What were the effects of or the impact of this damage is world wars concerned? Death and destruction. Death and destruction. So it was unprecedented actually, but so let us have according to our calculations, we have got some information. We have got some information about this. Let's see here. 10 million people were killed. Million people are soldiers. Among these 10 million, 75,000 Indian soldiers were included. But actually, we did not have any kind of rivalry towards the Axis group or central power countries. But whereas, as we were under the control of these elite group countries, namely Britain, and we supported the Britain, and because of that, 75,000 Indian soldiers were killed in this First World War, and 22 to 25 millions in World War II. How many soldiers were died? There were about 22-25 million. And so that part was actually soldiers. And if we move on the civilians or the people concerned, 40 to 52 million people died. The civilians, those who were not fight or involved in the war directly, about 40 to 52 million people were died. Among them, nearly 6 million Jews died in Holocaust. 6 million, that is nothing but 60 lakhs. 60 lakhs were killed, 60 lakh people of Jews were killed or died in these world wars. Especially such a cruel incident was done by Adolf Hitler, who was the head of the Germany, who started Nazism. And 1,50,000 to 2,46,000 were killed because of the atom bombs of US attack on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So how many people died because of these atom bombs attack on Hiroshima and Nagasaki? It's about 1,50,000 to 2,46,000. And another important thing which we have to remember, that regarding this death and destruction of these world wars concerned, my dear, and they were affected with leukemia and cancer. It has been lasted so many decades. Also. See here once again the people who lost their lives. So the people, they lost their life. And even see so many people We have already discussed that. Regarding this Hiroshima and Nagasaki concern. So this was a bomb, atom bomb, which was thrown on Hiroshima and Nagasaki by US troops, and see, they suffered for a long time, for decades together with cancer and leukemia disease. See how, what a miserable condition, miserable. So that was the effect of world wars. Not only war, and if you observe regarding the Indo-China war, Indo-Pakistan war, 1971 concern, there was 8,000 people killed and 25,000 people wounded. How many? 8,000. And regarding Indians, 3,000 dead and 12,000 wounded. Regarding Indian soldiers concerned. And what about the present day, the current topic? The current topic concern. See here, my dear. So India-China crisis of 2020. The 20 Indian soldiers, among them there was an officer, and 43 Chinese soldiers were died. And we know very well that Colonel Santosh Babu Garu, so from Telangana, he lost his breath in this crisis only. See, Jai Hind, Johar to Colonel Santosh Babu. So that was the effect of the wars, my dear. And this was the issue of this Indo-China, or the presence. And this is the LAC, and where Chinese people, they tried to enter in our border. So that was the thing which we have to remember. And regarding the death and destruction showed through the graph, the war-related deaths between 1500 to 1999. In this aspect, which we have to remember, the power blocks, where these the nation states, the world divided into nation states. And what is a nationalism? Nationalism is a belief, creed, or political ideology that involves an individual identifying with, becoming attached to one's nation. The feeling of nationalism and the loving of nation. And they developed such attitude, and these nation states divided into power blocks. Whenever they establish their power and they want to expand their power towards other countries, and for that, for expansion, they maintain some relations, good relations, and they went into a war camps. And these, by the end of the 19th century, different nations of Europe entered into alliances with each other against the other groups. And these power blocks divided into allies and central powers and axis, which we have discussed. These allies led by Britain, France, Russia, and central power Germany and whereas Allies in Second World War led by USSR, USA, France and Britain, and whereas Axis powers led by Germany, Italy and Japan. So this is the about these power blocks. And very important aspect we are going to discuss, that the causes of two world wars. The causes of two world wars. And let us have this. So there are similar causes and there are comparison of these causes. But what is the immediate provocation for First World War and as well as Second World War concerned? See, the immediate cause of World War I, that the murder of Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria on 28th June the year 1914 by a Serbian fanatic. That was the immediate provocation of World War, when the Prince, Mr. Ferdinand, the Ferdinand, Austrian Duke, he was murdered by Serbian fanatic. And they asked for explanation, why did you do like that? But they kept a deaf ear. And then Austria declared war on Serbia. And we had already discussed, we have already known that there are two rival blocs. One is Allies and Central Power. When Austria declared war, automatically Germany joined with it. And when Serbia went into the war, so it was encouraged and supported by these another rival bloc, nothing but Allies group, which where this Britain, US are so. And like that, the First World War was broke out. And if you move on to the immediate provocation of World War II, nothing but we call it as Polish resurrection. And what happened here? The German tanks driving into Poland on September 1st, 1939. So German, it was under the control of the famous good dictator and as well as chancellor, Mr. Adolf Hitler. Adolf Hitler was such a powerful man who started the Nazism, and he wrote one book, namely Mein Kampf, which became the Bible of Nazism. And Hitler invaded Poland as punishment for refusing to hand over the port of Danzig to Germany. So that was that when he was captured the Poland, automatically the Allies powers, which was led by Britain, France, US and USSR, they encourage and they given support to Poland, and it has become a world war. And regarding the another causes of the similar causes of this World War I and II concern, aggressive nationalism. What is aggressive nationalism? Well, we know very well that nationalism. Then what is aggressive nationalism? Nationalism, we know that the feeling of nation, the loving of nation, respecting the nation. That is nationalism. What about aggressive nationalism? See, this ideology could also be used to create pride in oneself and hatred against neighbors. So we feel pride that being Indians. And the same way, we develop the hatredness or the enmity, the rivalry towards other nations. So we know very well that when we sit in the gallery, when the Pakistan and India, the Indian cricket match is going, and we feel pride. Yes, as the India must be win, of course. But if we develop the hatred towards the other competitive country, such we call it as aggressive nationalism. And same thing happened. It was supported and encouraged by Italian fascism, which was started by Mussolini, and the German Nazism by Hitler. And these elite powers, Axis powers, Central powers, they developed that aggressive nationalism. We, the people of Germany, is a supreme race in the world. Fine. You must feel that your race must be supreme and good. But if you develop such the hatredness towards the other countries, what happened? It influences that negative aspects in our minds. So such aggressive nationalism was developed, and which led for the outbreak of two world wars. And another cause, if you move on, that is nothing but imperialism. Imperialism. What is imperialism? It is the polity of extending a nation authority by territorial acquisition of, or by the establishment of economic and political hegemony over other nations. Yeah, so that was imperialism, establishing the political authority, establishing economic domination, and acquisition or invasion or occupying. So all these countries, especially those who are industrially developed, the countries which were industrially developed, they want to invade the countries which are lagging behind economically. That was the thing. And another cause, that secret alliances, it is a political agreement between countries to support each other in disputes secretly. That is secret alliances. So they were supporting each other secretly when the circumstances demand, when the situation demands, and they must be in a position to support militarily, economically, politically. So that was the thing. And what are those? Triple entity by Russia, France, and Britain. So that was the secret alliance, the triple entity, and triple alliance by Germany, Austria, and Italy. And these secret alliances created an atmosphere of fear and armed peace. They thought that they can establish the peace with arms in Europe instead of peace in Europe. So they thought that. So that's why, whether you remember on that Mussolini, he started one ism, that is nothing but fascism. That fascism is derived from a word, that fascio, which means the bundle of frauds. Bundle of frauds. And another cause which led for the outbreak of two world was this militarism. And they thought that military is the belief that military might is the best way to ensure security, and war is good way to solve the problems, to ensure security, and war is the good way to solve the problems. So, and if you observe that, they thought that militarism or establishing military the world over the world is good way to get good domination. And see here, if you observe that, and how much military was established throughout the world. So 1800, this is 1880, and even 1890, 1900, 1910, 1914, almost is double, is a triple. And they spent more money for establishing this military throughout the world. And even see, we observe that six big powers, namely Germany, Russia, Austria, Italy, France, and Britain, they increase by over 300%. That is from 132 million to 397 million pounds. See how much money they spent for increasing the military. And because of that, and they spend more money for a military. So militarism was also one of the causes for the outbreak of these two wars. And if you move on, the life timeline of these two wars concern, and this is the timeline actually. So this is all about the causes of the First World War and Second World War. Once again, have a look the timeline of these world wars. So 1914, 1917, 18, 19, and even up to 1945. So 1914, the First World War. 1917, Russian Revolution. 1918, end of First World War. 1919, the Treaty of Versailles. Once again, 1919, the formation of League of Nations. And 1933, the rise of Hitler in Germany. And 1939, breakout of Second World War. 1941, German invasion of USSR. 1945, the formation of United Nations Organization. So 1945, the end of Second World War. So this is the timeline of world wars.